Captain's Log Supplemental.
Hey Jeremy, you know those race cars you're busy building?
Yeah, I do. I
You,
got one
you,
that I'm looking at every day.
you know what I don't see you working on?
You don't see me working on the amazing Sentinel system yet.
That's true. It would take all of 10 minutes for you to have one.
And it's very quick and easy to install.
It is. It is. And we could watch you when we are not at the race with you and see how you're doing. And then we can call you up when you get out of the car and tell you everything you did wrong.
And I love that because so many years I've been driving and not been able to see what I'm doing.
I know.
And now we can.
I know. You know what I'd like to do with the video? My most favorite thing is I take the video and I load it on YouTube and then I send it to my coach and say, look at 26 minutes and 17 seconds. Look at this one lap and tell me what I can do better. And every single time, you know what they say?
Everything.
Exactly. Precisely. So with the Sentinel system, you get instantaneous feedback plus useful feedback that unfortunately is accurate for my driving.
I think it's accurate for all of our driving.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's probably true. Yep. But you need to get one in your car, sir.
Yes, I do. And with the discount code that you're going to tell everybody, they can save 10% on this awesome system.
Yep. Trouble free. I haven't had an issue getting video every time we've gone out with the Sentinel. It's always worked. Can't say the same for some of the other systems we've tried. So I don't know. It's on the podcast notes down there. Don't do it while you're driving, though. We like to have our listeners live. It's good.
From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher, and their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher, and our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. Their mission: to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
All right, let's get rolling. Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training Podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode. My name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
I'm Vicky.
Miss Vicky, returning guest, and returning guest should have been like 3 times already, but schedules did not permit. From GridLife.
Hi, I'm back.
Becky's here. And
hello, I'm Scott.
Scott.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Becky and Scott.
Exactly. Scott's been on. I don't know if he's quite got his hosting jacket. It's getting close. You need 5. I think you're at 4 or 5. I don't know. I'll give you a jacket anyway. I don't really care. I just have to get them made. But I have all the pieces now, so we're getting closer. And Miss Becky's been, I think we actually talked to in person, well, Zoom person, for the pre-1 lap before my 1 lap fell apart again. But we'll get there. So welcome to the podcast and welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Excellent. So we had a family flu of some type rip through the house and decided to save all our friends and not get anybody sick. So kind of the reverse of, I think, last year or the year before when you guys got sick going out to Lime Rock.
Yeah, two years ago was GridLife's first time out, and the morning we were going to leave, he tested positive for COVID, and we kind of went through all the scenarios of going and just like staying away from everybody. And in about 24 hours, we were very glad we didn't go because we felt terrible.
Yeah.
It was the first time having COVID, so we're like, we're not really sure what we're in for here. Would probably be better to be home.
Mm-hmm. I think everybody agrees that most of our racing friends are way too good for take the chance on getting them sick. So, but you got to do Lime Rock 2nd year in a row.
2nd year, yep. Yeah. So here we had the engine Miata engine issues.
Hmm.
Yeah, we weren't gonna put a third engine in for the year, so we decided to bring Becky's car, Mooncake the Mazda 2, and we did some quick number crunching, and the travel costs were well under half if we just drove the car versus putting it in the trailer and towing it out. And we'd save time in the transit. So we just last year we drove Mooncake with all this stuff in the back. And yeah, that's how we did it last year.
So we usually start our post race episodes with prep and how prep went, and we've been following along. But just in case people weren't up to speed with where you guys got to, how was prep going to Lime Rock?
Um, so the Miata has kind of undergone some changes since last year. The brake system was completely overhauled. ABS was added. A new engine was put in, a brand new rebuilt engine, and we made the conversion to E85. And all of that took a little bit. The ABS turns out wasn't terribly hard, but the wiring, took some doing to get it down to my wiring guy, Bluegrass Race Electronics. And the engine tuning actually took a minute just to get things lined up and get dyno usage time and things like that. So, and then when we finally did try to get it on the dyno, the O2 sensor was dying, so the tuner couldn't really do much because, as it turns out, the most modern standalones rely on the O2 sensor pretty heavily. So it's hard to really zero in on that. So we had hoped to have the car on track for the first time back at Rev Up, which was early May or middle May, I think. And yeah, that just didn't happen. So behind schedule for sure.
We also had to take the transmission out twice after we put it back in with the new engine. The first time was for seal gasket leaking, and then the second time was for throw up bearing issue.
Oh,
That threw us behind also.
mm.
The gasket, yeah.
Well, the more you do it, the better you get at it, so it gets faster, right?
Done it a few times at this point. Yeah. Right before the last time I put a dry brake in the clutch line, and very glad I did that for the following time. So, but yeah, Lime Rock had never driven the Miata there. Certainly had wanted to GLTC race there, and wanted to kind of flex some of our setup skills by getting the Miata really ready and putting on a circle track special on it.
Mm-hmm.
And with family trips and things like that, and the Miata just, not being ready earlier, that just didn't really happen. So we knew the engine was good. We knew the aero was good. Made some changes on site to the air intake, which helped keep the temps down better this time, which is great. And but yeah, the setup just knew going into it that I was going to have a somewhat of a handicap. I don't know lap time wise, but went on track for practice. Placed better in practice than I thought I was going to, but the car handled about like I expected it to. So, which is
Yeah, a little rough.
it wasn't rough. It just never had the ultimate grip in the left rear that we know that we needed. So just kind of handicapped there. But
we also were planning on this season having some more practice for Scott, non-competitive, non-GLTC weekends for practice in the Miata, so we could test some like changing of the shocks. We haven't really played with the new shocks that you put in the season before a whole lot, and that was part of our plan for the season that we just didn't get to do because of uh getting behind schedule and getting the engine and the transmission all set. So
Yeah, you always think you have time.
yeah,
And
it was another challenge to our setup that we wanted to be more prepared for, but just haven't been able to so far.
So for the home game players, Scott is in the same position that I am, except Becky's in a much better position than Vicky is, meaning that Becky is mechanically inclined, can work on the cars, can do the setup, can do everything, as can Scott. So the only person out of here on this podcast who can't do anything of use on a car is me. But working on it.
Yeah. The thing I also just remembered is we just changed the spring rates in the car. Went to stiffer springs, softer roll bars, something that I'd been meaning to try for quite some time. And so we did that, and that was part of the setup time issue is putting all that on. Then you've got to reset ride heights, you've got to reset alignment. It's a whole thing.
Would that throw off your cross weights too?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I know for a fact are not good. But kind of is what it is.
Yeah. Well, through some of our I was living through the YouTube stream and the text chain, so I think I bothered you. I don't know how many times during the track. I apologize, but it's the only way to survive and figure it out. But it sounded like you had a rear camber issue, which if you had the rear camber issue you had, you'd really rather prefer it be switched left to right as opposed to right to left. So
right. Yeah.
maybe
if the track was a mirror image of itself, if we were turning left most of the time, we would have been in really good shape, actually. But here we are.
Yeah, so Lime Rock being what is it, six? I don't know how they count their turns. I think they say there's six right-handers and one left-hander.
Everything's named there, so they apparently don't like numbers at all.
No, and the Newman Straight is far from straight, but whatever, it's fine. It's nice that it's named after him. That's kind of cool. But
that's right.
so your rear camber was off by about a degree or degree and a half?
No,
Even?
not that much. By probably close to half a degree on the rear from where I wanted it to. But with a double A arm car, it's a bigger deal than a strut or camber gain and all that good stuff. So it just didn't allow me to really lean on it in the high speeds, particularly West Bend. And the corner weights were the other thing that really kind of hampered me. I have a pretty good guess of what it's going to weigh at, but I'll be able to see for sure here within a week.
That'll be good. That'll be good. So your K swapped or freshly K, I guess it's fresh K swapped Miata with a very cool arrow, lovely livery. It seems like let's just go over GLTC to be from a global perspective before we do the dig into Lime Rock. It seems like there's been like different reigning kings of GLTC. It kind of started out, it looked like the Miata was the way to go, and then it kind of went to the S2000, especially the year where Tom won like half of everything that he ever started an engine on, which isn't surprising since he's Tomo. And then it seems now there's been the rise of the big beefy GM Corvettes. So where's the Miata issues that are holding you guys back? What do we need to lobby from Adam to get this all level?
That's right.
Yeah, the small tire reward was helpful, certainly. The hard part is I don't think it's enough, but I don't know quite how to do it well. The problem with the smaller diameter wheels that Miatas and some older Civics use are that in the smaller diameter tires that you get, you lose a lot of longitudinal grip, which is
Hmm.
under braking and under acceleration.
Hmm.
They also don't multitask as well as the taller wheels and tires do. So you're giving up quite a bit in just the ultimate grip point of view, even at the same width. You're just not getting the same amount. The other issue is the way that the heat goes through these tires. We just have physically less rubber, and so they get heat soaked much quicker
Right.
than the larger tires do.
Hmm.
And again, I don't quite know what the answer is there. I certainly I'm not one to say like make my car fit or like, make make the Miatas like great again sort of thing. But
Hmm.
um yeah, I don't know. I think there's some bigger picture things maybe with the tire table to the balance, some of the aero and competition stuff that you can choose that's been suggested. That's at least intriguing to me.
Hmm.
But I've kind of left all the engine and all the balance stuff up to people who are much more interested in it than I am. Um, the quickest Miata in the field is either Emil Tab or Jake Price, kind of depending on the weekend.
Right.
Jake's car is Miata shaped. Um, they've got 17s under the car for that particular reason.
Right.
Um, and they're both very good drivers, and they're not super pointy in, like they're not able to compete for um, podiums necessarily,
Right.
unless it's wet, and then everything changes. But
Hmm.
yeah, I don't really know what the answer is, and I'll just keep. I know for me, a lot of it's just in my driving, so that's kind of where my focus needs to be. And uh, however they decide to do the rules, I'll let the Miata lobby take
Yeah.
care of
If it was a Honda Miata, it'd be taken care of already, right?
A
that.
Honda Miata.
As long as it's big Honda though, it's got to be a big one.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I was thinking two things. I think if you took away the balancing effort that GridLife goes through, the Corvette's a higher performing vehicle in general. I mean, if you just said just out of the box kind of, standard track car, I was thinking maybe the thing I was thinking was perhaps take away the ultimate performance of the series, like back it off a little bit so that you'd have more cars capable of being competitive. And then the other thing that I think might be lacking is some type of track multiplier because there's high horsepower tracks and tight and windy tracks, and I think that the effect of the track has been largely ignored. Like
Yep.
there's certain tracks where it's going to be a civic track, or certain tracks where it's beneficial to be a Miata, and there's other tracks where you're not going to do anything except follow the Corvettes through. So I'm thinking there might be some multiplier opportunity there, but that's just me sitting in my sofa being sick watching on YouTube going, what could we do to make this even better? Because it's awesome now, but.
Yeah, one of the ideas is basically to have your tire size based on your base weight,
Hmm.
and then whatever um, modifiers that you have based on flat tune, aero, stuff like that does not change your tire size.
Mm.
Because the idea that's at least been presented, and again, I don't you y'all can debate this till you're blue in the face, and I'll be listening, but not much to add. But the thought right now is that, with your, say you get sized at 275 or 295, and then you take a flat power and you take um, all these things, and that gives you more weight, but more weight allows you more tire. So there doesn't seem to be the downside of just taking more weight, is because you can just take more tire. With all that, you can take more power, which is better for the power to drag
Right.
equation.
Right.
So there, it just kind of seems like everything points to just be heavier. And that kind of, I don't want to say solves all problems, because, definitely have a lot more to deal with in the corners. But yeah, I mean, at that point, if I think if things were maybe a little more balanced, and I should also say we do have several Corvettes that are not at the front of the field, and not to
Yeah.
say that they're not good, but like there's a range of Corvettes, just like there has always been a range of S2000s and a range of Miatas and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah. It's not the easy button. It's just a little, I think,
Right.
ultimate performance. You build it to the limit of the law in law in quotes. I think the Corvette might have an advantage at this particular point.
Yeah, it seems to. And I'm, whether it's sunk cost fallacy or whatever it is, but I'm, you know, I've got my Miata, and um, we've talked about a few other things, especially after the second blown motor last year. We had all the conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and for just practicality of it, we decided to keep on with the Miata. So here we
Yeah.
are.
All right. Well, that's the end of my armchair quarterbacking of the series as a whole. It is my favorite form of motorsport on TV, even though it's on YouTube. But that's okay. The coverage is awesome, by the way.
It is. It's fun to watch afterwards.
It is.
For
It's almost as good as being there, but I still think being there is kind of more fun.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. The GridLife's videographer named Creature, Matt Bloomfield, he put a GoPro on my car for race 2,
Mm-hmm.
which got relegated to the B group in that one. So I think I started sixth. I think I started sixth.
I think
He
so.
had a camera on my car for that, and it was on the hood looking back at half at me, half with whatever's next to me or behind me.
Mhm.
It's a pretty cool shot. They just posted it up on, or like half of the first lap up on Instagram. But
I didn't catch that yet.
I'm gonna try to get a copy of the entire race and do a view from what I'm looking at versus a view from
Mm-hmm.
that one. Might be cool.
Yeah. I sent you Andy's, I think it's Andy Smedegaard's car,
Yep.
the rear view for looked like a lap and a half or two. So I always like looking at my car from somebody else's perspective, because what I think it's doing, even with the video and memory and video, occasionally it's not exactly what I thought it was, but that's okay. It's
For
fine.
sure.
So Becky, you didn't get to participate with the driving part of the day, but how was your car management, viewing, talking to Scott over the intercoms that you guys have worked out? How did everything go for you from a keeping this performing perspective?
Well, for me, Lime Rock was I don't want to say easy, but we didn't have a lot of problems with the car that we had to deal with. So that was nice.
Yeah.
I still had a little bit of work to do. We made some small setup changes throughout the weekend, which I don't mind doing at the track. It's kind of fun to have something to do like that. Um, I was pretty busy most of the time doing data collection for other drivers
Mm-hmm.
that Scott was coaching.
Yeah.
So that had me down in pit lane about half the time to take pyrometer readings and whatnot. But um, it was really fun for me that Scott competed in the races. So I got to do some race calling for him, which I didn't realize how much I enjoyed that and had been missing it. But getting him back out on the races and calling the gaps for him and his times compared to those around him is really I find it exhilarating. It's like I'm part of the race too.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that over the weekend. But I had a great weekend just with the things I had to do to the car were proactive instead of reactive.
Oh,
And
that's good.
yes, and had a good time race calling again. So it was good.
Where'd you stay for your calling? Was it on Spectator Hill? Because you can see kind of half the track from there.
No, I usually need to be near the start finish so I can see like if there's a restart
Ah,
or what the
okay.
flags are doing down there. So that's an unfortunate part. I don't get around to a lot of the different views for spectating. I'm usually pretty tied to, and I want to be near pit lane in case he's got a problem and has to come in or whatever may happen. So I'm usually pretty tied to pit lane and start finish.
That makes sense. Would have we could have been useful. Vicky, we finally could have been useful for a GLTC. We could have been like
That
out on different corners looking at stuff. That would have been fantastic.
would have been
Have
nice.
had that in the past. We've had friends watching on the live stream. So, especially at the bigger tracks, like I remember once at Road America, I'm only looking at the front straight, but there's a yellow flag on the other side of the track that I have no idea about. And friends watching the live stream will text me and say, yellow flag at turn 6. And then I can relay that to Scott. So, the live stream definitely does help with some eyes in the sky for me on occasion.
That's not a bad thing, but hopefully one day we'll be able to get out there and help out a little bit. You never know.
Mm.
How
We
many
also,
how many
the
cars
way
were you
that
guys?
our communications, we have it running through our phones. We can also do like Discord
Hmm.
calls, so we can have like group chats and something, voice group chats going during races instead of phone calls, if that works out.
Yeah, I
We've uh
figured
we've
you
joked
just
in GLTC that we could get, like 5 or 6 drivers on the call and just talk crap to each other during races.
I've had dumber ideas. That's okay. I was thinking we do a group call, conference call, and just have some person on Spectator Hill for you, and then somebody on the back towards the bridge, and you could kind of cover all three if Becky's at the start finish area. So that one, because Lime Rock is so short, you can kind of see a lot of it from not too many different places.
We have had one or two opportunities when we've had more crew members available. We've kind of started to use that strategy of placing people in different places. It's really fun to get everybody involved like that. It really is makes it a team sport then.
For sure, for sure. Plus, you guys, on the side, well, not really the side because you focus on it so much, but you weren't just taking care of Scott. You had how many cars were you coaching this weekend?
Had 3 drivers I was coaching, and then all 3 of those cars plus one more we were helping with setup. So we had our partner drivers this year are Peter Granberg, who drives a K-Swap BRZ in Club TR, and Chris Rice, who drives right now he drives a Barrow GE Fit in Sunday Cup. They've been our partner drivers for this year. And then Kevin Bandy in GLTC. He and I have been working together a lot this year, and it's been really good to, kind of keep coming back with the same driver. Communication gets easier. You start to develop a shorthand with each other. And with the coaching, you can always reference back to remember what we worked on at this corner, this complex at this track. Well, it's kind of similar here. Um, and then, kind of continue on with the setup journey with their cars and stuff too.
So
Hmm.
Brian's not racing with you guys this year.
No, Brian, really after his Heartland incident 2 seasons ago, he's kind of put the car on the back burner, and that kind of burned him out time and financial wise, and he was kind of heartbroken and tired after that whole thing. So he's taking a break. He does still have the car, looks great now. Um, he just recently got a sim rig and got set up with iRacing, so
Oh, nice.
we're probably gonna start in with that for him. But he's enjoying the fact that he can race and compete without spending any more money.
And if you do have to do any body work, it's pretty cheap.
Exactly.
So you were at Lime Rock, and I've never driven on that track. Could you give us a little bit of a track review on your opinions on the track and what it felt like?
I'll give mine, and then Becky drove last year as well, so she can too. It's a it's a very open flowing track. It's not like a lot of modern tracks where there's a lot more hard braking zones, turn, and then a little bit of a straightaway and things like that. It's set up very similar in field for me to Nelson Ledges, which, you know, I think just like Lime Rock has one actual braking zone, the rest are kind of deceleration zones,
Hmm.
at least in cars our power level.
Right.
Um, the I think it's really the elevation that makes this place special. It's the back half of it is built up onto a hill, and the rest of it is down on some flats. So it's also not numbered, so all the name corners have names. So it starts with Big Bend, which is kind of like a double apex right-hander. Try to flow in as much speed as possible, get the car rotated, and then you've got your option of using the inside curb or not at the exit of Big Bend. Then you've got the left-hander, which it's called the left-hander because there's only one. Uh, and it's got a little camber going into it, but really flattens out right at the end. Then you have very brief kink to the right that really cambers up right inside of it. Need to stay off the curb because the curb takes all of that nice camber away. But then it very quickly kind of pops up and tabletops you. So you've got to get your turning done before you come out of the turn. Then you've got I think what's called the Sam Posey Straight, which is a series of gentle turns. And it's not that much straightaway. And you go into the uphill, which is the turn, probably the most intimidating turn on the track because you turn in from the flats and then just at the apex, it starts going uphill and really rises right at the exit of the turn. And you've got to kind of throw the car in knowing that you're going to get that grip towards the end, but you've got to kind of get the car settled before you crest because it crests pretty abruptly and there's the wall right there. So if you do go past what you should, which at least one car that I know of did this weekend, you will hit a wall there and pretty hard. Then you come up to what I think is the most difficult corner called West Bend, up on the top of the hill. It's a right-hander. Um, Not much grip on the exit, but it's a long entry that isn't a very typical braking and deceleration zone. It's very challenging, I feel. And you come under the bridge, you go down the hill to the corner called Downhill, and car gets really loaded up. You turn in way later than you think you should, but you really use the um, kind of coming down onto the crest or coming down and flattening out to load up the car really hard. But I think the thing in general about this track is there's a lot more elevation than just the uphill and downhill. There's a lot of camber changes. There's a lot of gentle whoops. They're not bumps, but they're whoops in the track that you really have to consider to get everything out. So there's a lot of interesting stuff. So if you can, definitely I would suggest doing a track walk too.
Mhm.
Let's see. I drove there a year ago for half the weekend. So I don't feel like I have a really good handle of that track, but I did very much enjoy it. Um, I never felt like I got the left-hander right. I'm guilty of overcooking slow turns. Um, and but other than that, in my car, it's mostly flat out the rest of the time, which is really exhilarating. And I really enjoyed how the corners flow into each other. Some of the corners open up really nicely so you can get on throttle and just flow through the exit into the next corner. I really enjoyed the uphill and the downhill. The location of the elevation change and the severity of it make it very fun. My car just loved to be thrown into it and grip up in the elevation. So I had a lot of fun with it. I would like to drive it some more. Um, if we get the chance, I think it's a very fun, flowy track.
Mhm.
Hmm. So did you what about the infield events? How did that go?
We didn't we didn't do a whole lot of those. Um, we took some pictures on the, I guess they call it an autocross course,
Mm-hmm.
like a paved
Mhm.
tiny go-kart like track, and it's got some major elevation of its own with painted curbs and stuff. It's actually it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
Um,
we've actually driven on. We haven't done the full
Yeah.
track.
oh nice. Yeah, it looks very cool. AMP is kind of similar where the track and the go-kart track kind of mimic one another in that, you know, you get a lot of camber, you get a lot of elevation and stuff like that.
I did take the pit bike up to the autocross track and got a little taste of what Seth does with his little tiny bikes. It's a TTR 50, so very small. I had fun ripping it around the go-kart track just a little bit.
Living
Yeah.
your best Seth life, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, otherwise the yeah, the video game stuff was always fun. The food vendors there were pretty okay this year. Certainly pricey. And it's just kind of the nature of the thing. And, you know, they had the car show. The awards ceremony is always really fun for us to go and kind of cheer for our friends and stuff like that. So it was a good time. We had the punk rock karaoke at the on the dyno Friday night, which is always always unofficial GridLife dine or unofficial GridLife karaoke. So it's good.
So what normally takes place for the races on a Friday?
So GridLife for the festival rounds has put all the competition on Fridays and Saturdays now.
Okay.
So for GLTC, that means you have a morning practice session that's usually 20 minutes long, 15, 20 minutes. And then you go straight into qualifying after that. Typically, at a lot of the tracks we go to, you can pay for extra practice time the day before, which quite a fair few GLTC drivers and time attack drivers do. Typically, with our work schedules and finances and things, that's not something that generally, especially with a drive that big,
Mm-hmm.
it's usually not something that's accessible to us very easily. But yeah, you go straight into qualifying, and that was a challenge this year.
Was it?
We're supposed to have practiced all together, which I think we had 64 cars registered, which would be too much for Gingerman. And this track is way smaller than that.
Yeah, way too much
But
for one
yeah,
round.
so they last second divided practice up into two groups, but that's still, I think with the cars on track, that still gave us like 27 cars, which was plenty. And then
That's not a very big track.
exactly. Yeah, it's not Road America. Um, and even 65 cars at Road America is a fair few. But qualifying was everybody, they usually give us more time, so somewhere between 30 and 40 minutes. I think we had somewhere in there this time. And go out and you try to find your gap is basically it. So we got to grid a little later than we wanted to. So I just sat in grid for a good 10, 15 minutes, tried to wait for some people to come off and pit and wait for everybody to, kind of bunch up and try to find a gap and do the best I can.
I don't think at this track anybody really got clear track for qualifying, or if they did, it was very slim, like one shot. We did try to wait until some cars came in because it's so long. Some of them will go out for 20 minutes or so and then come in, but I think because it was so crowded and a lot of the drivers didn't feel like they were getting clean laps, not many of them came in, maybe
Right.
10 to 15 out of the whole field. So really quite impossible to find clean track and a good gap.
We didn't hear from any of our friends, anybody who was like, oh yeah, I had 2 or 3. It was like maybe 1, if that.
Yeah, we definitely saw after the fact, some of a few of the drivers we saw did 30 laps, and some of their fast laps were on like lap 26 or 27. And it's like, all right, well, as much as we can say, just go out, set your time, come on in, and then that's not how history has not shown that's how we do it. So
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. There's some options there, but none of them are great. So I don't know how to fix that.
exactly, and that's kind of the thought of only having one longer session is, track conditions are the same for everybody, and kind of a quality sort of thing. And it's, we deal with it every track. This one's particularly difficult, but everybody's got to deal with it. So get good.
Yeah, it was basically a faster lemons race there for a little bit. So
We were making some bad jokes about, we'll just hook up toe straps and we'll we'll just go nose to tail the entire way around.
probably
Hmm.
could.
So how about the Saturday on your race review for Saturday?
I don't
Yeah,
think we did Friday. Did we do Friday? We did
yeah,
Friday qualifying.
so qualifying, and then we do the
Oh,
first races um Saturday late afternoon, evening. Friday late afternoon, uh early evening, something like that. And at Lime Rock, we do A and B races. So the fast half is in A, the slower half's in B. And then into race 2 and race 3, they do some promotions and relegations. It gets very complicated with um, penalties and disqualifications and things like that.
Mechanical breakdowns. Yeah.
Exactly. But the ultimate notion is that if you finish in the top 5 of B, the next race you'll be in the in A, and otherwise, if you're in the bottom 5 of A, you'll start towards the front of B.
I like the AB. It works, especially at Limrock, because you just have too many cars not to do it. And I think it works pretty well.
Yeah, it was fun. This is my first time actually doing the A B stuff, since I didn't get to do it at Mid Ohio this year, but it kind of makes an interesting dynamic. I was in A the first race, and then Vicky, to your question, then races 2, 3, and 4 are run Saturday.
mm-hmm.
And so I was in the bottom, well, I wasn't in the bottom 5 of race 1A, but because the way the rules are written with mechanicals and things, I started race 2 and 2B, which, is basically just another challenge. So instead of starting at the back of a very quick field, I was starting in the front of a slightly slower field and maybe trying to get a podium spot. So it certainly changes the dynamic, especially when you're kind of in that middle range.
Mhm.
It really shifts it around.
Yeah. Good experience for,
Mm-hmm.
being towards the front versus battling in the middle.
Exactly. And that's what Kevin and I got to work on. Like he started a race at almost the very back, and then the next race he was like on pole. So like it was a great series of experiences for him this weekend.
Good, nice.
So you guys had a little bit of a struggle bus with get the car not being everything you guys wanted to, but versus how you thought it was going to be goals wise, how did the weekend go overall?
I'm not sure I really had expectations. I never have expectations of where I place.
Mhm.
I think, to be frank, those are very silly goals to have going into a race weekend, especially if you don't know who else is going. In our multi-class racing or in our multi-make racing and stuff like that, I never have like, yeah, I definitely want to get 15th or higher. It's not quite how it works. That being said, my goal was to try to be in flow as much as possible while in the car and to try to have a sense of what the car needs for the next race or next session. And we definitely made some calls that I think helped the car. The track conditions were very interesting this year, and I think it was partially track conditions with the life of tires that we had. But Friday, the car, and I heard this from a few others, not just us, but the car got progressively looser as Friday went on.
Hmm.
Then Saturday, it started pushy and got pushier as the day went on.
Ooh.
Don't really know why, other than the weather and track conditions were very different the 2 days, and I'm sure changed throughout the day. And our tires are from well over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
They've got use on them, so not sure. So we made a few changes that certainly did help. Weren't really didn't get to the ultimate thing that we wanted to, just because setting up leveling pads and doing a whole alignment at the track while we're coaching and setting up people's cars just isn't feasible for us
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
without like four more skilled people helping us out. Um, so yeah, the it was my first full weekend of wheel to wheel in well over a year, and I was very pleased with my mental state. Um, Kind of throughout there, I was able to stay pretty calm for the most part, super focused. I didn't reply to Becky very much, which is usually good for me. If I don't, it means I'm focused on the task at hand. And got in the flow a few times. It was the car was a bit of a handful, and I'm certainly out of practice, so it wasn't as familiar as I think it needed to be to get in flow regularly.
Mhm.
But I got there a few times and had some really fun fights with a few buddies. And I think most, I guess, what I'm most proud of is it's a very difficult track to pass on. And while I certainly got rolled, I think almost every start, I
Really?
was patient enough to wait until the cars in front of me started going side by side into fast corners. And I was able to set up some passes on the front straight, kind of exploiting the fact that they were going slow to be able to pass one or more cars at a time.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. So Becky.
Yep. Becky's Lou.
Yeah, she had to run and grab the
Oh, all
driver.
right. So we're gonna do the good, bad, and the ugly, or the highlight or the low lights. And if you don't really have an ugly, just a story time. So what was your best thing that happened on the track or
Or
the
at the
whole
event.
weekend?
Yeah. I think I'm not sure it was one particular thing. But in terms of me on track, I think setting these passes up, I was very pleased with. Sometimes it would be fights up in front, or sometimes somebody would just make a mistake and go through a corner. And so there were several times where I actually lifted on straightaways to be able to um, go through the next corner at speed to be able to pass them
Mhm.
and to be able to have that um, kind of foresight and ability to kind of think through things and do that. I think that was probably my highlight. I had several, I think almost at least once a race, I had that opportunity.
So no
And
rust.
um, maybe in some car control, and I'm still kind of working into the brakes. With the new ABS system, I can it's much more stable on entry because I'm not locking up tires and things like that.
Mm.
Um, so there's still just some raw seat time kind of stuff that I'm certainly lacking. But mentally, I'm much closer than I thought I was going to be. I'll say that.
Cool.
Becky, she asked about highlight this weekend.
Hmm.
So one of the highlights for me was just seeing Scott being able to be on track for the whole weekend and seeing him get to pass some other cars and have some good battles out there. Oddly enough, I think one of the other highlights was we decided to make a change to the car at the last minute, and it was a change that required two people, two sets of hands, but it was close enough that Scott had to get ready. Um, and I'm a person who finds it very satisfying to do my job well and have confidence and satisfaction in what I do. And I had to call somebody else over, kind of like grab the first person who was nearby, say, "Hey, come help," and direct them what to do. But I take joy out of knowing what to do and being able to direct somebody else with what to do and have the confidence in what I'm doing. And we got the change made while Scott was getting ready, so he didn't have to worry about it. We did it, and I was confident in what we did and got him out to the race.
Yes.
And I think that was probably a highlight for me.
Oh, excellent. Don't you love it when you kind of stretch your muscles on it a little bit?
Exactly.
It's fun. It is kind of fun. All right. So how about the low light, the things that did not go well?
Not
Get
being
it?
able to not being able to get the setup right with the car and kind of battling with that all weekend. Very unsatisfying.
Hmm.
Yeah, because the alignment and corner weights weren't what we wanted going in, we couldn't really try some of our circle track skills that we've gleaned from some of our circle track buddies. Just because we were doing everything we could to make the cars good as it could be, and there wasn't really any room to like try something because we weren't really sure what it was gonna do. So
You couldn't talk Adam into running Lime Rock in reverse?
that I heard somebody mention that, and it would be fun, I think. I've also run in the sim the by the chicane
Hmm.
of the uphill,
Yeah,
then the long west bend way around, and that's pretty fun too.
it is. It is. I've only done Gingerman backwards, so it intrigues me to do that for certain tracks. There's some tracks I'm like, no, this is not safe. This is a bad idea. But I think Lime Rock might actually work.
It it probably would. I'd want to see the impact zone for West Bend
Hmm.
and the downhill. Well, what would be the downhill from what is normally the uphill?
It'd be fun having a track that says the turn is an uphill turn and you're going down. That'd be kind of fun though.
Yeah, yeah. When you go down the up.
Yeah, go down the uphill and
Go
up
down
and
the
down.
up.
Yeah.
So,
Kind of fun.
what about an ugly? It could be either with you or with something that happened at race weekend in general. Could be
Or if
somebody else's.
or if not ugly, it could just be an excuse for a great story. We love stories.
Mm,
Um, one of our drivers, Kevin in GLTC, got hit in the last race, and it wasn't his fault. And his car's okay, but it did some damage, and he didn't get to complete the race, and that's never good to see, especially when it's somebody that you're rooting for and that you care about. So
Right.
that was an icky.
Yeah. Yeah, that was certainly a bummer. Since I work with I was technically not working this weekend, but I, still did some stuff working with our race director and things. Um, I'm working with some of the rookies. I'm working with some of our drivers on probation. We started something new with our probationary drivers that I think is a real step forward. But yeah, just dealing with driver decisions is can be a bummer.
hmm
And, as much as you want good things for, you want people to make good decisions, and they don't always make good decisions. And so that's kind of a bummer. We didn't have anything major, but we certainly had some things that required attention.
Yeah,
Um,
more than you want for sure.
yeah, and it was, I mean, all the whole better than we've seen a lot of this year. Um, that may or may not be saying a lot, but it was first few races were um
Messy.
good. So
It's been a
all
messy year.
better.
Yeah.
Hmm. So what about any post-race projects and improvements for the next one or even for the next season? Or are you off?
No, we've got Autobahn coming up in 3.5 weeks. Um, yeah, certainly want to get the ride height and alignment set. That's kind of the big one in my mind. Getting that down. I would like to play with the Haltech, which is my standalone system. I'd like to play around with some settings in there. I'm gonna try to bring up the next step in programming for that. Um, Otherwise, the intake setup I've been kind of tweaking and slowly working with. And now that I figured out how to keep it cooler, I'm gonna try to figure out how to make it better. So that may take some creative doing.
Mm.
Um, I've also been working very quietly for a long time with our longtime buddy and Aero guy, Tim Miller, and Ryan Dunham, who's kind of started his own side business a while ago. And we designed and printed our own wing and end plates. And I have been putting that together. And if I'm able to do it well enough, we might try it out for Autobahn. But the idea is that it's a medium sized wing under the GLTC rules, which would give us a 1% back. But we basically are trying to see if this wing will do what we need it to versus the current 9 lives wing that we have.
Hmm. Sounds like an interesting time. Are they going to be doing the north-south combine race, or are we just doing south at Audubon? Or
Likely just south. The only year we did the multiple courses was, it's been a while, 4 or 5 years ago. Well,
yeah,
it had to have been 5 years ago.
I think it
19,
was pre-plague.
yeah, 19, I think. And that was good fun. I mean, we ran uh south and north, and then they combined them for Sunday, I think is how they did it. But with their members and things like that, they typically run Miatas and Radicals and stuff like that on North Course with their members. Then we just have South. And workers and gridding and stuff like that. It's a pretty big lift to change configurations and staff 2 tracks instead of just one sort of thing. So we'll pretty sure we'll be sticking with South Course.
Yeah, Vicky and I have only done south so far. I hear there's a north course. I've never seen the north course.
Hmm.
North Course is on its own. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not very fun. Now, full is fun. There's a almost a triple apex left-hander as that comes around paddock
Mm,
that is very good fun. So
yeah. Every time I started walking that way, I got the feeling I wasn't welcome in the clubhouse area, so I would just turn
you're
around and
you're
stay
not
stay where I'm supposed to be. But
you are
yeah,
absolutely too poor to be there. So
yeah, I must stay with my fellow peasants. That's fine.
That's right.
It's okay. Well,
so that's yeah, getting ready for Autobahn. We didn't race Autobahn last year, and it's probably one of my favorite tracks to race at. Uh,
I can see that.
lapping is fine, but I think the way it's laid out is very conducive to um, pulling people side by side and fairly safely and having a good time. And I hope it rains. I hope it rains hard.
You
I don't
like
know.
racing in the rain?
He,
Absolutely.
he does. I agree with you on racing in the rain. I'm not sure Audubon's where I'm hoping for rain though. Audubon in the rain is kind of
It's it it's not the old mid Ohio,
no.
but it's not as easy as a lot of other tracks. It's slick when it gets wet.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you can get pit race in the rain without the rivers, that's about my favorite. So
Yeah, we got pit race in the damp on the 1 lap, and it's shockingly grippy.
it is.
Um,
It doesn't care. But it's still enough where you got to think about it. And that's when usually when you lose people who don't want to be in the rain. So I'm okay with that.
I really liked pit race when we went. I'm really looking forward to being there and racing it in the Miata. The Cardinal was certainly a lot of fun there. It's I think having a race there in my own car and really throwing it around a little bit more will be good fun.
Mhm.
I feel exactly the same way about pit race because we were there for the 1 lap, but I wasn't driving my car.
Right.
And I had great fun, but my overwhelming thought was I want to drive this in my car. So actually, I was originally planning to take my car to Lime Rock and pivoted and said I'm going to do pit race instead. So Mooncake's coming back out for Sunday Cup at pit race, hopefully.
Well, speaking as a low horsepower aficionado who's done thousands of laps at pit race, be careful at turn 5 and 6. You better get it right, or else you're going to be able to like go for a manicure, go food shopping, going up that hill. Because I mean, it's just like you check your list off the fridge, anything, because you measure up with an hourglass.
Yeah, I told Becky if she wanted, because iRacing doesn't have pit race on it, but it does have Barber,
Hmm.
which has enough similarities. I think that'll at least get her brain working in the right direction.
Yeah, no spider at pit race, so just in case you get
That's
upset
true.
there. No
But no mannequins falling off bridges either. So
True, true.
Hmm.
No bridges, so that's okay. Yes, well, hopefully we will pull off what we want to do in November post race season, our little festival of fun, and that's a TBD announced. But I'm still on the ledge. I know Scott's eyes are going to roll. I'm on the ledge for whether I do pit race or not, because national championship, blah blah blah. But we may have the Sunday Cup car out there with you, Miss Becky.
Hmm.
you you should.
That would be great fun.
It's my favorite
That
track.
would be fun.
Well, that was hard to talk me into.
How about
Okay.
this? Do it, bring some video and data, and then we'll do some stuff.
We'll do stuff. We'll do stuff. And it'll give Miss Becky will be able to beat somebody easily. Not a problem. So it'll be
Got a
fun.
set of tires she's been waiting to put on. So
Oh, she's going with new ones, new stickers.
Oh yeah. At least a pair of them.
Well, you only need two, really. I mean, the other two are just getting dragged around a little bit. Got to keep the back end from dragging.
Mhm.
All right. Well, it sounds like we'll have some Mazda 2 on Fit Violence in the upcoming pit race, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's a week before our wedding, so
No pressure.
Ah, well, congratulations.
it's gonna be a thing.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming on. Sounds like Lime Rock, as usual, it was an awesome festivity, and we're sorry we didn't get to make it out there and say hi and give a hug and cheer you on from closer proximity, but we were watching on the big YouTube.
Yeah, it was a good time. We're glad we made the trip, and finally got my butt back out on track, and yeah, was really proud of the drivers been coaching this year at this track. They're all continuing to improve, and we keep identifying kind of what's next in their driving, and it's been very good to work with them all year, and we're not done yet. So we've got some things we're hoping to wrap up for the season with them.
Sometimes that's the biggest thing is what to work on next. You
Yep.
know,
It can be hard, especially in your own driving. I'm a pretty decent driver, coach, and sometimes in my own driving, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. So,
well, for me, it's easy. You just sit there and order from the what's that place? The Cheesecake Factory menu. You can just choose anything off of that menu for me. It's 50 pages of what I could work on. It's just which one should I order? So
no,
maybe
I
I'll
don't.
I'll just get the cheesecake with the strawberry topping. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Thank you guys for coming on. It's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank
having.
you.
I'm glad I made it finally.
We
Thank
did
you.
it. Who
Becky,
knew?
it's very nice to meet you.
You as well. Thanks.
All right. Excellent. Thank you guys.